p.m. on Roku at 4 p.m. Let's get to the news. No,
okay, Matt, you're leading off.
Now it's time for NFL news on the Big Football Show. Everyone, New York Jets 21, Denver Broncos 13. Wilson with 2 one-handed touchdowns, Devontae Adams with a touchdown. Tua blasts critics saying the mishandled snap only looked easy from your couch eating chips. Aaron Rodgers.
A little old. I don't know what the hell happened there. Sorry about that, Linda. So anyway, folks, welcome to the Big Football Show. I'm your host, Mac, with your co-host, Jack Hirsch, and also J-Train. James Martin, good morning. Welcome to the best football show on the internet. So we're going to start off talking about, before Keith gets in here, the Michigan State-Ohio State game, Jack. Give us your thoughts on that.
Well, I'm not the one to analyze it or anything, because I would have taken Ohio State and and I gave the points yesterday in a prediction. I thought this was the perfect scenario for Ohio State to beat Michigan after losing in their last few tries. Michigan's been struggling all year. Ohio State's a prime contender for the national championship. And you never know, that was the biggest upset of college football season. And it's got to be eating at the Ohio State alumni, the frustration of all their losses to Michigan in recent years. This is far and away the worst, because they have the better team. They have the better team, yet they lost to Michigan. They couldn't generate an offense. They threw the costly interception early in the game. And awful scenario. What happened at the end of the game? I would want to hear Keith comment on it. You know, the brawl that took place between Michigan and Ohio State. I know tempers flare, but there's got to be accountability. If you're a visiting team, you try to plant your flag on another team's home field, you're automatically guilty. Case closed. And there should be some really serious consequences about that, because that's the equivalent in a way of insulting someone's religion, and provoking them in a certain way. And it was an ugly scene at the end of the game. And it made Ohio State look like sore losers at the end. But in reality, they were outraged that Michigan would try to plant their flag on the Buckeyes field.
What do you think, Keith?
Morning, guys.
Good morning.
As far as the game itself, Ryan Day's better win the national championship. That's all I can say. If he doesn't, he's in big trouble. As far as the end of the game, I kind of waver. Protect your field during the game, and that stuff doesn't happen. So, we can look at it both ways. I blame coaches in these situations. I know they're out there trying to calm things down, but Michigan shouldn't have done what they've done. Ohio State shouldn't have retaliated and engaged, but they do look like sore losers.
Well, they should have just let Michigan plant their flag on the field. We had a similar scenario yesterday with Billy Napier, the Florida coach, apologizing about his player doing the same thing on the Florida State field. He's outraged over what his players did.
I'm not saying it's the right thing to do, and I'm not saying it's cool. I'm saying protect your field during the game, and that stuff won't happen too. I mean, there's a little bit of that too. So I get it. People why storm the field in certain situations when you should expect to win? You know, I was in Syracuse yesterday and they stormed the field. I mean, don't they expect to win the game? I mean, I just don't get it. But to me, it's look at, I don't want to see brawls in football games, but and disrespect happens, and the way you earn respect is to win. They beat this team. They made their season yesterday, and they wanted to celebrate. It's the only chance they're going to get to celebrate. I don't like
but
it.
Not by planting a flag on an opposing team's field. We have something similar with your Patriots years ago when they upset the Chargers in the playoff game. They were stomping on the Charger logo, and LaDainian Tomlinson, the great Charger running back, was outraged. He started fighting, over that. You don't do that on a visiting field. You could do it on your own home field. Plant all the darn flags you want, but not on a visiting field.
We saw it. We've seen it in the NFL. We've seen it in college. We'll see it again. Do I want to see that stuff? No, but look at protect your honor. If you feel you got to go out there and protect your honor, then do it. These are grown men now, and protect again. I'll keep coming back to the fact that protect your honor during the game, win the game, and it won't happen. That's
Keith, I have to disagree with you 100% here. I agree with Jack 100%. People could get hurt. People could get hurt. Cops are spraying people with pepper spray. I mean, this is something that you can't have.
Have to go out and engage. They didn't have to go out and engage.
If I'm a coach, Keith, I am not allowing that. I'm not allowing that. I'm sorry.
Again, it's a coach. We talk about coaching things all the time. This is part of a coaching thing. I'm not saying I'm okay. I would not want my team to go do it, but when it happens, I understand it, and there's a lot of emotions in these games, and they spill out in a lot of different ways. And this is one of the ways it came out yesterday. Not pretty, but it wouldn't have happened if Ohio State protected their field during the game and won the game.
So it's okay to get taunted after the game, and your explanation is just win the game and you won't get taunted.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
So just handle it. Anyone could say to you and do to you what they want after the game. They can mock you. They can taunt you. They can throw things at you. Win the game.
None of us sitting here can sit here and understand the emotion that goes on during a Michigan and Ohio State game and aftermath beforehand. Any rivalry game, for that matter. We cannot speak to that. And again, emotions take over. I'm not necessarily defending it, but I understand when it happens, and there are ways to prevent it. When you're the better team, do not let the lesser team, your arch rival, take away what you own, which is your home field.
There's a difference between running around the field with their flag. If the Michigan players were holding their flag up and running back to the locker room holding it high up, I'm okay with that. I'm not okay with them planting a flag on the middle of the field of an opposing team. And it happens with Florida and Florida State. Billy Napier, the coach, apologized about his players doing it. He said he's outraged over what his players did. There's going to be consequences to his own players over what they did because it's completely unacceptable. If you don't like it being done to you, you don't do it to anyone else. If Ohio State went to Michigan and they did it to Michigan, the Michigan fans would be absolutely outraged.
Sure they would, and they should be. It's okay. I get the outrage. I understand all of that. I also understand why it happens. And I also understand how it could have been prevented.
So Keith, let's get to the rest of the games. I don't want to get caught up in an hour for that. Carlos kind of agrees, and a bunch of them agree with you.
Who's he agree with? Not me, I hope. Does he agree with
me?
You.
Yeah, so you know you're wrong. Anyway.
I'm changing my mind. I've just reversed my argument.
So Clemson loses to South Carolina. Our running back Ladoris Sellers with 2 touchdowns. Keith, big surprise.
Listen, this is a big rivalry game as well. South Carolina's been playing great football. South Carolina's still got a path to the playoff. They need some weird things to happen, but Clemson backs their way into the ACC championship game next week. I think they'll get beat by SMU because it's a really good football team, and there's a lot of teams didn't take care of business yesterday. I was at one of them, so every Saturday there's been crazy stuff. 2 top 10 teams lose again yesterday. 6 top 25 teams lose again yesterday. This is why college football is an exciting sport.
Illinois 38, Northwestern 28. Running back Laurie, he has 172 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Illinois, again, a lot of teams playing for pride yesterday, and Illinois is one of them. Illinois had a really good season under Brett Bielema, and they're a team that, may be on the rise in the Big Ten. Big Ten is we talked about the SEC being a lot of parity. The Big Ten's got more than you think. The top 6, 7 teams there are after Oregon, and really should be Ohio State. Are pretty even. There's a lot of teams beating each other up. But again, I didn't pay a lot of attention to that game, quite frankly, because there were so many other games of import.
Arizona State totally dominates. Arizona State, totally dominates Arizona. I think I'm saying that right. Quarterback Levitt, 3 touchdowns, and Scatterbo with 3 touchdowns too.
Arizona State's been playing great football. They played their way into the conference championship in the Big 12, and I think they'll handle business against Iowa State next week. They'll probably be ranked in the top 12 this year. The rankings, they have to fix the way they do these rankings because they rank 12 teams, but they aren't necessarily the 12 teams that will be in a playoff because sometimes you don't have the group of 5 team in there. The Big 12 team champion or leader or potential champion wasn't ranked in the top 12 the last couple of weeks. So great game. Arizona State's playing as good as anybody in the country right now.
Arkansas, Missouri, they lose to Missouri 28-21. Back Carroll, 90 yards, 2 touchdowns. This was a lot closer. I mean, the score is close, but I think it was even closer than the score showed.
Yeah, Missouri has been a disappointment, but they've come back and played better the last few weeks. They've handled Arkansas pretty well over the last 6, 7, 8 years, and these are 2 teams kind of again at the bottom of Missouri was in the bottom of the top 25, but it's still a big game for them, and Pride still will win out. I'm sure Missouri's happy to get things righted after a really disappointing season for them.
Then you got, of course, the game you were talking about. Syracuse quarterback McCord with 3 touchdowns. 3 touchdowns by running back Allen. 82 yards, 2 touchdowns. Syracuse just surprises Miami.
Syracuse, and I said this for the last couple of weeks. Syracuse could surprise this team because they can put points on the board. Miami could not stop them all day. They got out 21-0 in this game. 21-0. Miami was ahead in this game, and they could not stop. I don't think after the first series they stopped Boston College the entire game. I think there was 1,000 yards of offense or very close to it in this game. Very little defense played on either end, but Miami kept shooting themselves in the foot. And somehow, with 4 minutes left, inside the 10-yard line on 4th down, Marco Cristobal decides to kick a field goal. You haven't stopped the other team in 3 hours. You think you're going to stop them? Stupidest thing I've ever seen. Oh, not the stupidest. We've seen a lot of stupid things. But
did Cam Ward's draft stock drop a bit?
Miami's out of the playoff right now.
Cam Ward, his NFL draft stock, did it dip a bit?
Yeah, he was. I mean, his numbers will look good yesterday, but I'll tell you, you watch the game, he was not as good as he's been, and that's 2 of the last 3 games. At Georgia Tech, he struggled. Cam Ward, I love Cam Ward as a college quarterback. I'm not sold on Cam Ward in the NFL.
Me either. SMU dominates every phase of the game, offense and defense against California.
The SMU, again, I talked about Arizona playing great football. SMU's played tremendous football. Their defense has been getting better and better. They've run the ball as well as anybody in the country. They've got 2 quarterbacks who can play as well as the other, each as well as the other. And I do not think Clemson's going to be able to beat SMU next week. One loss, I think it was in week 1 or 2 to BYU on the road. So that's a good team.
Penn State absolutely stuffs Maryland, Keith.
Big statement game for Penn State. Penn State backs their way into the Big Ten championship game against Oregon now, and look at people get outraged over late touchdowns. I know there's a lot of outrage in Maryland today because Franklin scored a late touchdown, but quite frankly, I mean, the way the system is built, so that your style points matter, and that last touchdown, whether it was necessary on that, I'm sure we'll get into it with a couple.
Wait, Keith, you see, let me reverse from the flag waving thing. Yeah. James Franklin was right. He said he had his third string team on the field against Maryland's first team, and he said these kids are entitled to play football.
Let me be clear.
To score. They shouldn't be taking knees or just handing off up the middle to get stopped. They're entitled to try to score. They're not trying to rub it in. If you're trying to rub it in, if it's the last play of the game and there's 3 seconds left and you're calling a pass play and you have a big lead, okay, I can understand that. They're not trying to rub it in. They're just playing football. The sensitivity sometimes is off the rails.
Let me be clear. I do not have a problem with teams, even if they are running it up. It's not my job to stop my team, ever. It's your job to stop me. And once you're above the peewee level, put on your big boy pants and stop the team that you're running you up. I mean, geez. So I have no problem here either, by the way, which I'll have a problem probably in a half an hour or so, because I know a few people on my show do have a problem with teams running it up. I don't. So, and they weren't. You're right. You're your third string quarterback. So, yeah.
Notre Dame, outscores USC 49-35. You called this one, Keith.
Struggled early. They struggled early in this game, and it pulled away late. Actually, they struggled for a lot of the game. They pulled away late. Wasn't able to see it, but I was tracking the game on my phone. And Notre Dame will probably move up to fourth, but they can't. That's where the rankings get screwy, right? Notre Dame will move up to fourth, maybe even third over Penn State. I doubt it. They'll move up to fourth, but they can't be higher than fifth in the seeding. So they should just seed the teams, not rank the teams, if they're going to do this weekly poll. But Notre Dame looks really good, playing good football. USC is, again, not having a great season, but a good win for Notre Dame for sure.
So Indianapolis, there wasn't even a game. Indianapolis beats Purdue 66-0. I mean, touchdowns everywhere.
This is another game where Indiana really needed to have some style points, and they got them. Indiana likely will not. There was some danger, depending on how things shook out, that they could still drop out of the playoff. I don't think that'll happen now. They don't play an extra game in the championship game, so they can't go in and get embarrassed or risk that spot. I think they're safely in now.
Yeah. Texas defense Texas A&M got that one pickoff, but Texas just kept coming back and kept stopping.
Texas played good football. Arch Manning had a good moment when Ewers got hurt for a bit. He did come back in the game, but both quarterbacks contributed. Defense, as you said, played really well, and playing down there at College Station is not an easy place to play. And they played well and won. That's their best win of the year, probably. And they'll get Georgia next week in the SEC championship game. That'll be a good one.
The talk is about Quinn Ewers maybe wanting to stay at Texas one more year, and they might roll with him as their starter. I can't imagine Arch Manning sitting on the bench for a third straight year. He's got to go to the transfer portal. But they have an obligation to Arch Manning at this point to tell Quinn Ewers, you can stay, we're glad to have you, but we got to give Arch the opportunity.
Cooper Manning said yesterday he's no intention of hitting the Arch has no intention of hitting the transfer portal no matter what happens, but we'll see.
He loves school. I praise the kid because he loves the university and he's thinking like a college student rather than a future NFL draft choice. And let's be honest, if Arch Manning doesn't take a snap from over the next couple of years, he's going to be on some NFL roster at the very least.
Sure he will. I think if anything, Ewers hits the transfer portal, and he's coming. I don't know. Maybe he won't come out. I mean, because his stock has dropped this year as well because of injuries and whatnot. But it'll be interesting to see what happens there.
As you were talking about Gabriel, Oregon's quarterback, 209 yards, 2 touchdowns. Running back James had 2 touchdowns. Oregon is just a fast team, Keith.
Oregon's fast, and they're also good in the trenches. One of the reasons they've transitioned to the Big Ten so well, and teams like USC and UCLA are struggling, is they aren't physical. The Pac-12 played a totally different brand of football than the Big Ten, and that's why you're seeing Oregon. They're prepared in the trenches to play these teams, and they're the best team in the Big Ten in their first year there. So kudos to Dan Lanning. That's a bit of a rivalry game, and they blew them out. So it'll be. And now they don't get Ohio State again. They get Penn State. So James Franklin gets a chance to beat a top 5 team that's not named Ohio State or Michigan. So we'll see what happens there.
UNLV 38, Nevada 18. Haik Malik Williams with 160 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Vegas still in the hunt. If they beat Boise State next week in the Mountain West, they likely would leapfrog them in the standings, would be my guess. So you'd just be swapping 2 teams. That's why there's not a lot of room for anybody who's on the bubble right now to get in. There's like one chance for a team to move up, and like somebody like South Carolina, for instance, could surprise. But nice game for UNLV with all the uproar early in the year. You mentioned the quarterbacks play yesterday. They've been better. They've been better since the kid left school. So they lucked out with a better quarterback than the one that we had all the controversy about.
Okay. So, of course, before Houston and BYU, I didn't get to that. BYU beat Houston 30-18. I got that right? Or 20-18. Again, closer than what the score shows.
The 2 biggest things from yesterday, Miami will be out of the playoff, but Bama likely, when you see the rankings come out, will be back in the 12-team field come this week, I'm pretty sure.
That's wild.
Okay.
But
right.
I'm pretty sure you'll see them in there.
All right, Keith, let's turn to your NFL picks this week, my friend.
Okay, it's either 3-0 or an over 3 for me, so roll the dice. Atlanta, +1.
Okay.
Broncos, -5.5.
Denver -5.
Yep. And I'll take the team formerly known as the Redskins, -6.
I saw that, Key. You wrote the Redskins. I was like,
I always do that. I got to be obstinate, James.
All right, Keith. Thank you for dropping in as you always do. We have a great show. Join Keith on the Roku channel also. Keith, thanks a lot for stopping in, my friend.
Enjoy the games, guys.
you too, my man.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
So there you go, folks. The great Keith Angle with his picks. And, of course, next we got to get my partner Jack's picks in.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny that I had put down the Cowboys getting the points, not thinking it was a Thanksgiving game when I jotted it down early in the week. I'm struggling this season. I'm 16, 18, and 2. So I'm a couple of games under 500. It reminds me of my past success as opposed to current success. If I had to compare myself to an NFL team, I'd say I'm like the San Francisco 49ers, who are struggling. Are they going to make the playoffs? You keep waiting for them to get it together, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen. And it's going to be hard for me to run the table. I got to go 3-0 to get to be over 500. And it's chancy. I heard that Keith said he was taking the Commanders. I'm going to go the opposite. I'm going to take the Titans at Washington with 5.5 points. Titans do have a good defense. It's deceiving when you look at their record. And have the Commanders, are they what they were early in the year? That's the question. People thought, the Commanders franchise has turned it around under Jaden Daniels. But you want to know something? This is still a rebuilding year for them, even though they have a nice 7-5 record. They remind me of your Giants, Mac, a couple of years ago, who got off to a 6-1 start. They weren't a 6-1 caliber team, yet they won some close games. And now I think the Commanders maybe come down to earth, and they're what we maybe thought they'd be, a team that's trying to rebuild, perhaps more so than a playoff team. But with that said, their record's good enough that they could still make the playoffs if they could be so-so the rest of the year. But I'm going to take the Titans to upset them like 20-17, but certainly with the points. I'm going to go opposite Keith too again. He took Denver. I'm going to take Cleveland, with the 5.5 points at Denver. I'm not overly impressed with Denver's offense. The defense has been really good. Cleveland showed some fight, in their last game. Jameis Winston is auditioning, potentially for the Cleveland Browns starting job. If Jameis Winston's really good the rest of the year, they're going to roll with him and Deshaun Watson next season. Deshaun Watson is owed the big money, but they'll have Jameis Winston to fall back on sooner rather than later. So I think they're going to stick with that quarterback tandem. I wouldn't trust Deshaun Watson without another quarterback there who'd be ready to take over quickly. But I think Cleveland showed some pride last week, and I could see them not only covering the points, but maybe winning a 20-13 type game in Denver. And last and not least, my emergency pick. I'm taking the Jets. I think Seattle's favored by 2.5, right? Not that it matters. What?
Only half a point, Jack.
It's only a half a point now? It was 2.5 early in the week. Well, it doesn't matter. It'll be a close enough game. And I think the Jets, I know the old Bill Parcells line, you're what your record says you are. And I'm not going to fight against that philosophy because at the end of the day, that is true. But the Jets are better than their record indicates. They've lost so many games that they should have won. And then you look at, you see this miserable 3-8 record. But and everyone points to Aaron Rodgers. He could turn it over to the defense with a lead with 2 minutes left in the game. The defense failed to hold. And the Jets will lose, and everyone will say, oh, it's Aaron Rodgers' fault. We're getting a little carried away here. But with that said, the Jets are going to have to address their quarterback situation next season because when Aaron Rodgers keeps saying he doesn't know whether he's going to come back, to me, that's the signal. You've got to address the situation one way or another. I don't care what his feelings are. If he said he definitely wants to come back, it's another issue. The Jets have 6 games left. Let's see them play the way they're capable of doing the rest of the season. I think they beat Seattle, today, like in the 22-16 type game.
All right. Okay. All right. So you're up next, James.
Yeah, so I got Seattle, Buffalo, and Pittsburgh. Look, it's just a half a point for Seattle. They're going into New York. I like the matchups for the number 2 pass offense for Seattle and the number 2 pass defense for New York. But I just don't. I think Seattle. There's too much chaos going on in New York for Seattle not to win. Seattle's got a high flying offense. I think they're going to do well, and I think the run game is going to get revamped. Kenneth Walker the third is healthy, and they don't really have a good run defense out there in New York. And I'm just not trusting Aaron Rodgers anymore, man. I really wanted to give him an opportunity to, on paper, the team looked good to win a division. It's just been total chaos there. So I like Seattle to go in there and cover, obviously win the game.
I love the matchup with Seattle's wide receivers against the Jets defensive backs too. I think they got an advantage there too.
Yeah, I think so. So Buffalo, look, Buffalo is just being who they are. They're winning games in spite of what you might think of them. In regards to not enough on offense. Look, they're getting Amari Cooper back. They don't have Dalton Kincaid, but he really wasn't a factor as well. And they're playing against a hurting 49ers team at home. Even though Brock Purdy's coming back, I still think that they don't have enough to handle Buffalo, and I like Buffalo to cover the spread.
How do you like the matchup with Kittle versus the Buffalo defense against their safety?
Kittle's great. I mean, and then they have McCaffrey as well. But man, I mean, if that's all you got, I don't know. I think the big key is whether or not Deebo Samuels will add to that mix as well. But I don't see an answer for Josh Allen. I don't see an answer, especially if he's getting another weapon added to the mix, to their arsenal. So I really like them to come.
Okay.
Would you say, James, that the Buffalo Bills are arguably the biggest overachievers in the NFL this year?
Coming into the season with all the losses that they had, I really thought they were going to regress. And I really thought they were going to regress and not do as well. But, man, coaching matters, as you see. It really matters. And also having your best player just continue to play. I mean, Josh Allen, I really have to give him credit. When he got drafted out of Wyoming, I was like, who's this guy? And man, he is a stud, man. He's been.
Well, he was good. He was a first-round pick. I think he went 9th overall to the Bills. He went behind Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold, which no argument with that order, because at the time that was a consensus. The thought was that Josh Allen could be really, really good, but we weren't sure. There was
right, because the type of talent that he played around. I mean, our teams he played. If you see somebody playing, if I saw Josh Allen playing in the SEC or the Big Ten, then I'd be like, okay, this guy's he's probably top 5 pick. But I didn't know who he was playing against with Wyoming, and it's like, okay, you don't know if this guy's good. I mean, it's like saying Joe Flacco when he got drafted in the first round coming out of Delaware. Like, who's this guy?
Flacco went number 18 overall in the first round.
That's still pretty high coming out of Denver.
If a quarterback is elite, he doesn't last to number 18, because even if a team doesn't need a quarterback, he'd be like a steal. They can't bypass him. Yeah.
Joe was a steal at 18. I mean, hindsight 2020, you look at it like, wow. I mean, because I know you see plenty of quarterbacks go in the first round, top 10, they're bust. And so, like, yeah. But going back to Josh Allen, I mean, he's really he's the heart and soul of the team, and he's MVP caliber right now. Again, I think I got them winning this game and covering. And my last pick is Pittsburgh. I think the Steelers are going to bounce back from that game, that Blizzard game they played. That was a really tight game, and I like the Steelers right now. What they're doing right now, on both sides of the ball. They got offense, they got run, they got every facet of the game. They're above average. They're above average. They're really solid. And so I like the quarterback play. I like the special teams. I like defense as well. So I like them to cover here against the Bengals. And the Bengals, the only reason why I like them to cover, because I talked about this Friday night, and I said this might be their highest output. I think they can run a race with them because there's just no defense for the Bengals. There's no defensive output whatsoever. The best player on their defensive inside is Trey Hendrickson. He's got the most sacks in the NFL. You flip it over to the other side of the ball, those guys are dominant. They're scoring 27 points a game, I believe. 27 points a game with Joe Burrow. He leads the NFL in passing, yards, touchdowns, and completions, I believe. And Jamar Chase is doing the same thing, leading in receiving yards and receiving touchdowns. But they can't play defense. And if you can't stop the opposition, you're going to have a 47 record. And that's where they're at. And I like Pittsburgh to win this game.
Yeah, we mentioned the 49ers a while ago, thinking are they going to show up at any point? And I'm skeptical as far as that happening. The Bengals at 4-7, we kept waiting for them to show up this season, and they haven't. And they still have an outside chance to make a playoff run, but they just can't afford any more losses now. That 4-7, the closest team to them for the last playoff position would be Denver at 7-5. So they're just basically barely hanging in at this point. And the season just got off bad when they were shocked at home, losing to New England of all people at home in the opener. And they just never got on track. And then they played some good games that they nearly won against good teams, but they've come up short. And today might be the day where they're really going to be like out of it. I mean, they absolutely have to beat Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh can afford a loss kind of as far as making the playoffs, but Cincinnati can't.
All right. So producer Linda has Minnesota -3 at Arizona, Buffalo -6 versus San Francisco, Atlanta +1 versus the Chargers. I have the Chargers +1 at Atlanta, Seattle minus the half a point at New York Jets, and like James, I think Pitt covers are with the points at Cincinnati. So
guys, Jets are coming up a bye week. Keep that in mind. And a lot of times, a team coming up a bye week, they kind of regroup. They kind of get refreshed during that time, and they put some of the bad feeling behind them as far as the season goes. In a way, it becomes a new season. These games count for all the teams. You know, the teams even that don't have much hope of making the playoffs. 6 games left. You don't mail it in, even if you're coaching staff. 6 weeks is a long, long time. Can you imagine you're letting up if you're coaching staff inside the locker room, what they're thinking? That's a long time. For one game, you could get away with it. We hear about tanking. Players never tank. They absolutely never tank. It's ridiculous. Why would a player jeopardize his own job and not do well? It doesn't make sense. A coaching staff might tank to get a draft choice at the end if they can go number 1, number 2. They maybe want to go a little high in the draft. I can understand it for one given game, the last game of the year, but not with 6 games. I mean, these interim coaches, you don't think they want to win? They don't want to make a statement?
yeah, I would agree with that. So anyway, Pags hopefully will be in later to defend his picks, and Sonia I think still on vacation, so we'll see. I didn't see her throw her picks on any.
Where's she on vacation, Sonia?
Yeah, she's on vacation. I don't know why. James maybe knows better than me. I don't know.
I know she's studying for her finals. So
yes, her finals.
That's not a vacation. I mean, it's
yeah. So
that's
anyway.
leave of absence.
Yes, it is. It is a leave of absence.
Yeah.
So let's get into some of the other games that we haven't talked about a lot. Tennessee +6 at Washington, guys. I don't think anybody picked Tennessee or Washington.
I did my picks. I picked Tennessee.
yeah,
I'm going to copy. Yeah, they're my picks.
So what are your thoughts?
I think
Jim?
Will Levis has played really well the last 2 weeks for Tennessee, and they're going to have a decision to make because early in the year it didn't look like Will Levis was going to be their guy going forward, much like Bryce Young with the Panthers. But both guys have gotten it together the last couple of games, and their franchises are going to see how they're going to be doing going forward, see whether they roll with them or not next year.
What's your thoughts, James?
look, I'm gonna piggyback off what Jack said. Will Levis has arguably his best game these past season a while. I mean, the last game, and that was 270 yards. What was more impressive about that 278 was that it was for 11.6 per play. That's pretty big, and he threw 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, but he had a 123 rating, so he looks a little bit better. I just think Jaden Daniels is. I guess my question is whether or not Jaden Daniels will bounce back. They had a 3-game skid here, and I think it stops here. Even with the best defense, I mean, they're number 2 overall as defense with the Titans. I think that the Commanders, even though they might have hit their ceiling, they're good enough to beat the Titans, and I think they go 8-5 here.
So you're taking it sounded like you were taking the Titans in the beginning.
I'm taking the Commanders.
Okay, me too. I think Jaden Daniels is just a better quarterback than Levinson. I think.
A number of these rookie quarterbacks, they start off well, then they take a step back. I mean, give them time, to develop some of these quarterbacks. Like Caleb Williams has shown moments of absolute brilliance where he's been outstanding, and he's struggled at other times. He's going to be fine in the long run. He's the bad quarterback of the future, I never felt that with Justin Fields. The jury was always out on Justin Fields. It would always be, we'll see how he's coming along. But with Caleb Williams, you know he's going to be their quarterback of the future. Same thing with Jaden Daniels. You kind of know it. You know, he might struggle at times, but they love him in Washington. His teammates love him, the organization, the fans. He's going to be okay. Drake May at New England. You know, he turns the ball over a lot. You know, he's struggling a bit, but he was kind of thrown in there. Give him, you know, a couple of years to develop. You know, and if you're under the right situation, Bo Nix at Denver, if we took any of those guys I just mentioned, the other quarterbacks, and put them in Bo Nix's place in Denver, they'd have the same success that Bo Nix has been having. All of them. Same success on the Sean Payton. But meanwhile, you know, J.J. McCarthy, the other quarterback's been injured, so he's had a career setback because of injury. And poor Michael Penix, when he was smiling on draft night, being taken 8th, that wasn't a good thing for him. Maybe he got a few more dollars initially, but he might be sitting behind Kirk Cousins for like 3 years or so. They say he's not in as good a situation as the other guys, and because Michael Penix, he's maybe not being hurt sitting 1 year, but beyond 1 year, it's too much to sit. We talked about Aaron Rodgers before. 3 years sitting behind Brett Favre, he didn't need. 1 year, fine, but 3 years he didn't need.
Well, Caleb, the problem with Chicago situation is they keep changing coaches and GMs, and they never ever match up to that's their guy. The GM and the head coach never get together and get their guy. It's always separate, and that's why Trubisky and Fields and maybe Williams is going to fail. And I can see it happening. I really can.
If you talk about every franchise, Mac, in NFL history, who has had the worst quarterbacks of any franchise in NFL history? And you'd have to say it's the Chicago Bears, because if I ask you who's the greatest quarterback in Chicago Bear history, who are we going to say? Jim McMahon? I mean, come on.
I don't know. It might even be a Philadelphia Eagle quarterback. Oh, sorry. Here's Bags. How you doing, Bags?
Jay Cutler. When Jay Cutler, even Jeff George, I think, also played for Chicago for a minute.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a number of different names for that. Hey, Mac, it's great to see you. Glad to see you back and with and with us again. I miss you when you're not on these shows.
I miss you too. I miss everybody. I really do. So Pax, you were going over our the big picks. I need to get your top 3 first, Pax.
Okay, I got to remember who I chose. And we're a little busy here because we're getting ready to go. I got to get out of here by 9 o'clock because we're taking the bus down.
Well, why don't you just take the Eagles with the 3 points? I think it's 3 points.
I think that's actually going to be a good bet. I think that this is. You may find that this game could go a couple of ways, and I think it could go to the last possession type of game. But I also believe that this could be a put the NFL on notice that the Eagles are really for real, and that this running game is really the best in the NFL, and to do it against the #1 rushing defense would really be something. So I kind of feel like that is a possibility today. That being said, my picks this week were.
Who you got next, Bags?
I took the Chargers -1, Minnesota -3.5, and Buffalo -6. Does that sound about right?
Sounds about right, but you got 4 teams instead of 3. So give me your top 3.
The Chargers, Minnesota, and Buffalo. I didn't take the Eagles.
Chargers. Oh, you didn't? Okay.
No, I took
he threw that on me for.
Yeah. But you mentioned the Eagle game, Pax, with the Ravens. Normally, it would be a battle of the quarterbacks who would be the headliners, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts. But this week, it's a battle of the running backs. Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley. You know what drives me crazy? Running backs and quarterbacks are never really competing against one another. Saquon Barkley's competing against the Raven defense. you know, Derrick Henry is competing against the Eagle defense. I mean, they're not going head to head the way people make it out to be.
Well, you know, but it's still, it really is a good rendition of those two going against each other, though, because the defenses are very similar. The Eagles' defense is number one in a lot of categories right now, and you know, the Ravens' defense is number one against the rush. Now, if the Eagles come out and throw the ball all over the place today, which is kind of what I think that they're going to think about doing. I don't think it's the right idea. I think they do need to rush the ball. But if they go out there throwing the ball all over the place today and win the game, well, then they could say, well, it wasn't really the battle of the running backs. Truth of the matter is that both of these offense thrive in rushing the football. And that's why I think that it's going to be strength on strength, and whoever's going to have the better strength is going to win the game. And I tell you, the Eagles are a second half team, and they impose their will on these defenses in the second half. And that's why I kind of feel that this is going to be very similar to what you've seen all season long. Tough to get the car started. We're not going to score in the first couple drives, but then they're going to figure it out. And then in the second half, it's going to be where we really can start to impose our will.
I like the matchup of your wide receivers against the Baltimore secondary, Pags, a lot. I think you have a big advantage there.
100%.
Vic Fangio, if they had a most valuable coordinator, he would be it, I think, this year. Vic Fangio.
Agreed.
Valuable coordinator in the NFL. They don't have
from 31st in the NFL last year in defense to now being up in the top of the top five in a lot of categories. I can't imagine. But you got to give a lot of the credit to, Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell. I mean, without those two guys, that defense is completely different. Obviously you could give some credit to Bourne because now all of a sudden the linebackers have showed up. It's a shame that Brandon Graham is out for the season because he was having a career year and after 15 years, you know what I mean? So, and they're going to fill that hole. But I think you're going to see whoever gets filled into that hole. The reason why Brandon Graham was having such a great year was because not only is Jalen Carter getting double teamed all the time, but Davis is also getting double teamed all the time. So you got four guys taking on two, yet the other guys can get right on in there. And that's why they've been getting so much pressure on the quarterbacks. And I kind of feel that this is going to be a tough one for Lamar because as long as the ends stay in their lane and they don't allow him to run outside of them, you're going to see a bottled up Lamar and they're going to make him throw the ball. And I think that's where he makes mistakes.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with all that. They mentioned something about Darius Slay being out. Pags, did you hear that?
Yes, he's out. No longer a big concern for me anymore. Before, obviously Slay is a great player and you can't replace him, but we've already got that guy on our team. Cooper DeJean has been amazing. Quinyon Mitchell, I think he finally let up a touchdown in the last play of the game for the Rams. Yeah, the last touchdown play was against Quinyon Mitchell. You know what I mean? That's okay. You know what I mean? I'll give up that touchdown. Oh, it's a shame that he went up against him. But, the only touchdown he's given up all season long was a meaningless touchdown to bring it within like 8 points.
Okay.
Yeah, initially when you guys drafted him, I first of all, I saw how great he was, man. But I was like, okay, he's coming out of Toledo. Who's he playing against? But, man, he is shut down all the way, hands down, man. That's you guys got defensively the past few years, y'all just been loading up, man, on players.
Exactly. We got, like I said, and, like I said, everybody said, oh, he's coming from Toledo. He didn't play against anybody. He also did not, he turned down Alabama. They were supposed to transfer to Alabama. He's like, I don't quit on my team. And that's I like that even better. Hey, listen, I'm not going for the NIL money. I'm not quitting on my team. I'll make my money in the NFL. I'm not quitting on my team. And that's it. That's the type of leadership. That was the type of leadership Saquon Barkley has, even with the Giants and now with the Eagles, when he says, hey, listen, I don't need my records. Let those other guys eat. That statement early in the season has resonated throughout the entire season on this team. And that's why I feel like everybody's buying in. And you need to buy in. Everybody's got to be on the same page, because when you're not on the same page, you become the Dallas Cowboys. You become the New York Giants.
Yeah.
You become those.
But in this day of social media, let me play devil's advocate. And I'm saying this realizing Saquon Barkley's a team guy first. He seems to be a first-rate person and teammate. Don't get me wrong. But in this day of social media, if Saquon Barkley would have said to the coach, yeah, let me go in and get the record, people would have been all over him as being selfish, this and that. Let's be honest about it.
Well, going the other way. Going the other way. They showed that on social media because of his response. They would never have shown it. They would have never have shown that if he says, yeah, let me just go grab it real fast and then, let the other guys get in. Let's just make it happen real quick. He was only like 7 yards away. So it was really maybe 2 more rushes, and it would have said, hey, he got his record. Truth of the matter is that they would have never shown that interaction if that was the case.
Yeah. And, of course, that relationship that started off a little rocky between Jalen Hurts and Saquon in the beginning looks like it's right on key right now, Pax.
Yeah. Pax, so there's a possibility if you were getting a ballot for Coach of the Year, you would check off Nick Sirianni's name. There's a possibility.
No.
What? No. I mean, you got to give him credit the way he's turned the Eagles around.
I give him credit. Hey, listen, there's only been like 5 or 6 coaches that have ever started out 3 seasons with at least a 9-2 record. He is one of them. You know what I mean? So it's like Andy Reid's not even on that list. So it's that you got to give him some credit. The players love playing for him, no matter what anybody else says. But that being said, if I had the vote right now for the Coach of the Year, I think I'm giving it to Mike Tomlin.
Mike Tomlin?
Yeah.
No. Sean McDermott with the Bills, I would think.
Well, that's your vote. I'm giving you my vote. And there's arguments on both sides of that.
Yeah. So you're headed in the bus to Baltimore. That's how you're getting there, Pags.
That is exactly correct.
We had a debate yesterday, a discussion on our memory show about fan bases that really travel well. Are the Eagles one of the best traveling fan bases or what?
Without a doubt.
The Packers would have to be number 1, I would think.
Packers. No. Look at that. Here's how you tell. Look at prices of tickets at away games, and find out whose tickets are the most expensive going somewhere. Right now, I think you'll find that Detroit's got the most expensive ticket because they do have a fan base that does travel. The Eagles are always up top. Steelers are always up top. Cowboys, there's a lot of them. So they are always traveling to an away game. So it's like you get that as well. I think the 49ers travel well, but the Packers are somewhere like maybe 8th or 9th on that list.
I would have to say Buffalo's up there too, Pax.
That's exactly. That's also a really strong fan base.
You haven't we haven't asked you to respond to James something early in the year when the Eagles visited New Orleans, and New Orleans was off to a good start. He called the Eagle game a trap game for the Saints. Would you like to respond to him many games later as far as his Saint trap game?
Well, they got caught in that trap, and they haven't gotten out of it yet. So that trap is still there. So, but listen, guys, I got to get going. I'm getting phone calls left and right here from my boss. So I got to get ready for this bus.
Good luck today.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Today,
and let's go Birds. Yeah.
No, stop.
Which bird? The Ravens or the Eagles?
It's a great
the Cardinals. Yeah, it will be. It should be a real good game. So, guys, I'm going to step away, stretch my legs for a little bit, let you two carry on for a second. You can handle it. I'll be right back, okay?
Sure.
Yeah. So we're getting to the point of the season where games are a little more predictable as far as winning and losing. The stronger teams are going to beat the weaker teams. Early in the year, we didn't know what's what. But when all is said and done, certain teams that we expected to be there, but they're always teams that didn't perform. I mean, you take the Thanksgiving games. I mean, you take the Kansas City Chiefs. They were at 11-1. I don't look at them as a strong team this year. But in fairness, last season, it's easy to forget, the Chiefs were struggling badly during the season, and they somehow got it together. But the Chiefs win another game that they could have easily lost. I mean, it looks like the Raiders in field goal position to try to win the game at the end against the Chiefs. They have the penalty. And the Chiefs escaped with a victory again. I mean, they've been winning all these one-score games. I mean, I just look at them as a team that we perceive them based on their reputation, going to 3 Super Bowls in the last 4 years.
I mean, look, Jack, they won 2 Super Bowls in a row. People don't realize how difficult in football. I mean, other sports, fine. I mean, who was the last team before them that won back-to-back? Was it the Patriots, right?
Was it the Cowboys in 94? Good
No, the Patriots in 02-03, I think. 02-03 or something like that. 03-04. Yeah, they won 2 back-to-back, and it's hard. And no team's ever three-peated. I mean, the Cowboys came close when they got to the NFC Championship in 94 and against the 49ers, and the 49ers finally got over the hump. But it's really tough to do so, and it's tough to win game in and game out. It's a very difficult thing, and everybody's coming for it. They're giving you their best. They want to win, and you could see right now, Patrick Mahomes, he'll give you some good games. He'll give you some not so good games. I mean, early in the beginning of the season, he didn't play well at all, but they did enough to win. I mean, he didn't need to play well because they have a really good defensive front, and they have a really good, defensive secondary.
I don't buy that. I don't buy that argument. Well, we did good enough to win. We're satisfied. You can get away with it with the lesser teams, but when you go against the powerhouse team, you get your comeuppance. I remember my Jets the year after they won the Super Bowl. Okay, they win their first game of the year, then they lose their next 2. They're 1-2. Then they win 6 in a row against soft teams. They would beat like an expansion type team, Dolphins, something like 21-7. They weren't dominating, but they were always doing enough to win. They weren't being threatened. And now they're going after 6 wins in a row against the powerful Kansas City Chiefs. And they're at home. This is their test. You figure, the Jets are going to show up for this game. They get beaten 34-16. And then they finish the season at 10-4, and they meet the Chiefs in the playoffs. And they do show up for that game. They lost 13-6 at the end, a late touchdown. But the point is, these records are deceiving. And I'll give you a case in point. If the Detroit Lions visited Kansas City next week, I mean, I think the Lions beat them by more than a touchdown. And I know the Chiefs would supposedly show up for that game, but they've got to get it together. And with that said, was there a red flag Thanksgiving Day, the Lions, who are the consensus best team in football at the moment of going into the Thanksgiving game, that close call against the Bears, is that an indication they can be had after all? Because I picked Green Bay to win the Super Bowl, and Green Bay is the team that I think has a little more upside than the Lions right now. I think the Lions have peaked. They're about as good as they're going to be. How much better can the Lions get? Well, the Packers can still get better, I think, as the season goes along.
I don't know. I mean, I really think you gotta consider the Bears are in a tough division. They're the top 3 teams are right above them, but they played all 3 teams close to the wire. I mean, they're on the cusp. So all 4 teams are really pretty good. It's just I think you got rid of some dysfunction. Hopefully, you get rid of the dysfunction in the Bears locker room. And I think we didn't discuss this. Thomas Brown was the offensive coordinator that took over Shane Waldron's job, and they looked a lot better under his helm. And now he's the interim coach. They got to play these 3 teams again. And if I'm the Lions, if I'm the Packers, if I'm the Vikings, I don't want to being this close. I don't want to see the Bears again. I don't want to see the Bears again because now they look better, and then they show that they can play. They can give us their best, and they could potentially win games. You know, if it's not for dysfunction. I mean, that last game, the Bears should probably, in all intents and purposes, probably should have won that game if they knew how to manage 2 seconds. I just think that the Lions, they're still the top team. The Packers are right there. The Vikings are right there. It's just really hard to say until the Lions get taken down. I just think the Lions are still the best team in football, and I don't know if their ceiling is higher. It all depends when the playoffs gets here. I think playoffs is what really matters. And
why are owners pressured to give coaches multi-year contracts? I mean, if you're trying to get an elite coordinator like a Ben Johnson, and Aaron Glenn, a Brian Flores, you can't give them a 1-year deal. But this interim coach nonsense. Now watch the Bears win some games. The players are going to go to ownership. We want our guy to stay as coach, blah, 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 blah. At most, if I'm going to listen to them, he gets a 1-year deal. He gets a 1-year deal. Okay, he did good as an interim coach. We're going to give him 1 year, and at the end of that season, we'll see what the deal is. I mean, I hate the idea the interim coaches having a little success. You have that situation with Coach Rizzo at New Orleans. Oh, we've got to sign him as our coach. It's usually a big mistake. A big mistake.
I agree with the interim coach jobs. That's just it's a facade. It looks like it's really good at the end, and then all of a sudden,
and the players like them. So they go to management, and it rarely works out. I mean, once in a while, you have to stick with the interim coach. Yeah, we talked about Michigan in football, but Michigan in basketball many moons ago, Steve Fisher took over as their head coach. They won the NCAA tournament. You stick with the guy who wins the NCAA tournament. You don't get another coach, okay? But I don't want to hear that a guy goes, 5-4 the rest of the way, stick with him like that Antonio Pierce fiasco, because Josh McDaniels was so bad and Pierce went 5-4, whatever, a 6-3. People are getting excited. He did a good job. Don't get me wrong, but he wasn't your solution in the long term, and we're seeing that now. I mean, Steve Wilkes, he was 5-4 at Carolina. So there was an outcry, keep him as our coach. So he went to the Niners as their defensive coordinator, and they let him go at the end of the year. Yeah. Even though they went to the Super Bowl, they had a problem.
Jack, I know you think I forgot, but I didn't.
Well, I forgot. That's the problem.
So, trivia question. Trivia question is, I don't leave. Cancel.
Do I win by default? Like a walkover?
No. We talked about him just recently. Oh my God! There is no beer. I'm out of control now. The wide receiver Devontae Smith. He was the last player to win, non-quarterback to win the Heisman Trophy. So there you go.
So what are we talking about here? I don't get it.
You don't get it. I don't know what we're talking about. I
don't know.
I'm just letting you know.
College. It's supposed to be NFL. Don't give me a college question. Come on.
Does Devontae Smith play for the Eagles?
Yes.
But you said who was the last non-quarterback to win the Heisman?
Yes.
That's not an NFL question.
I don't know what to say to him anymore, James. I
I
tried.
mean, it's I might. How about you ask me that in a few weeks, and I'll say Travis Hunter. Okay,
right,
who's
we'll
going to
do-
win the Heisman? So that'll
Okay.
be my. If we could save it a few weeks, I mean, I could say Charles Woodson, but quarterbacks haven't won all those years since. So, man, I just off the top of my head, I'll say Charles Woodson, but that's going to be wrong. That was ages ago.
Long time ago. So anyway,
Steve Owen, the running back, got it. John Capoletti, the running back from Penn State, got it. I can't say I remember in particular. It seems like a quarterback automatically gets it every year.
for the most part, they
James probably would be more with it than me. James probably nailed this one, but more so than me.
I don't know.
Well, I mean, the question is the last 9 quarterback you said to win a Heisman?
In the
Yeah.
Heisman.
I think you just said it. Wasn't it Devonta Smith?
Yes.
Yeah, oh no, but before Devontae Smith, you meant.
No, I did.
Then you're not asking me a question. You're telling me Devontae Smith. So obviously, I'm going to say Devontae. You want to know before Devontae Smith. That's what I thought the question was.
You're
This
just
is a
making-
total debacle.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It is.
I thought
It is.
before Devontae Smith. So I think I got beat up, but I think I should get the question correct based on the disqualification.
I'll give you half a point, Jack. I'll give you half a point for that.
Okay, I'll take it.
All right, there you go.
Good question. You asked it right, Mac. I didn't understand it. You put it out there for me, but I didn't get it.
Okay. I'm not talking about Romeo Dobbs, Gardner Minshew. Of course, he's out with the collarbone. Zach Ertz out with Washington. Stephon Gilmore with Minnesota. David Mooney with Atlanta. Darius Slay, as we talked about. And Nick Bosa, offensive tackle. Trent Williams, both out. That's going to affect
James, Nick Bosa, underrated. I'm not underrated, overrated or not?
Not overrated, but at this juncture, he's not as good as he's been. I think he's a great defensive end. He's just really, as you see right now, he's hurt and he's not going to be in this game. I don't think he's overrated. I think he
hasn't been the game changer.
He hasn't been a game changer.
Really hasn't been a real difference maker.
Not like a TJ Watt or Miles Garrett, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Right, Matt.
Okay. So guys got anything else?
No, I'm good. I mean, the games we're pretty good with. I think every team is kind of gearing towards the playoffs, trending in that direction. And, the NFL's fun. You appreciate the NFL more when the season's over. It becomes like a fixture of our Sundays. Even if we're doing something else, the TV's on. We want to follow the games. There's an excitement. And when it ends, there's kind of like a lull after the Super Bowl. I know we could switch to the NBA and we get ready for Major League Baseball, but there's nothing like, football Sunday.
Not at all. Not at all.
And I just want to say the battle of the running backs, the 2 top running backs in the league, Saquon Barkley versus Derrick Henry, is going to be something to watch. And both of them, they're leading the league in rushing. Saquon number 1 and Derrick number 2. I think that's going to be game of the week for me to watch.
I think you're right. Well, I think we'll all be watching that game. Folks, thanks for joining us, as you always do. Thanks for likes, love, shares, and enjoy the games today. Now, as always, I hope your team wins. Okay, so
we're live still. We're live.
I know. We're gonna end it right now.